The US says all options are on the table insofar as Iran is concerned. It comes amid reports that thousands of Iranians were killed in nationwide demonstrations over economic hardship. The unfolding crisis has revived historical comparisons to Operation Ajax of 1953 that overthrew Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mosaddegh and restored Mohammad Reza Pahlavi to absolute power. Today, analysts are asking whether Operation Ajax 2.0 could be in the making and whether the US might play a role in supporting the return of the exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Aman Kumar Himanshu reports.
At least 2,000 people, if not more, have been killed in Iran following nationwide protests over soaring inflation and the rising cost of food and essential commodities. US President Donald Trump asked Iranian protesters to continue their stir, assuring them that help was on the way. "Save the names of the killers and abusers. They will pay a big price," he said. The Iranian regime's crackdown on protesters has raised fears of a possible US-backed intervention, dubbed Operation Ajax 2.0. Operation Ajax refers to a 1953 US-sponsored coup that overthrew Iran's elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mosaddegh. The 1953 coup was triggered by a struggle over energy resources, a dynamic echoed in today's protests over economic hardship. In 1951, Prime Minister Mosaddegh nationalized Iran's oil industry, effectively seizing control of assets previously held by the British-owned Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. In response, Britain imposed a naval blockade and an embargo on essential goods, including steel and sugar, to strangle the Iranian economy. While the US initially opposed military intervention, it eventually joined Britain in planning and executing Operation Ajax under the authorization of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The primary motives of Operation Ajax were to stop the spread of communism during the Cold War and secure British support for NATO and the Korean War. It also ensured continued Western access to Iran's oil. CIA and MI6 funded agents fomented unrest among the masses, the Iranian army, religious leaders, and Mossadegh's opponents. As unrest spread, the Shah fled Iran with his family. On the 19th of August 1953, a faction of the Iranian army, loyal to the Shah, the royalists and the religious conservatives, fought pitched battles with the supporters of Mossadegh on the streets of Tehran. Hundreds of people died in the clashes, but the army's support for the Shah proved crucial. The operation was successful. Mossadegh surrendered and was placed under house arrest, while Mohammad Reza Pahlavi returned from exile in Italy to assume absolute power. The Shah subsequently ended the British oil monopoly and opened Iran's oil fields to 5 American companies. While the coup served immediate Western energy interests, it is also cited as a key trigger for the 1979 Islamic Revolution and decades of intense anti-American sentiment. Of January 2026, the term Operation Ajax 2.0 has emerged as President Trump weighs a potential second intervention to support nationwide protests against the current Iranian regime. Current events suggest history may be repeating itself. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince and the son of the last Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, has lived in the US since 1978 and is reportedly preparing for a triumphant return to his homeland. On the streets of Iran, protesters have been heard chanting, "Pahlavi will return," while waving flags from the pre-1979 revolution era. Trump has bolstered this movement through social media, urging Iranian patriots to take over government institutions. From time to time, Reza Pahlavi has also encouraged Iranian protesters to continue demonstrations against the Islamic regime.
We have come to the point where people are just fed up with this regime. They are saying death to the dictator. They want to liberate themselves. And their demand for freedom is met with the most brutal reaction by a regime that is waging war on its own citizens. How else can we liberate ourselves when there's such degree of pressure without having, at some point, an element of backing and support from free nations that stand on the right side of history. Do not throw us under the bus by trying to negotiate or appease a regime that for 47 years has brutalized our nation.
Reza Pahlavi, the eldest son of the Shah, left for the US at the age of 17 in 1978 to train as a fighter pilot. A year later, the monarchy collapsed and he never returned. 4 decades later, nationwide protests against Ayatollah Khamenei echoed in the streets with slogans such as Javed Shah, meaning long live the Shah. It was Khamenei's predecessor, Ruhollah Khomeini, who led the 1979 Iran revolution that overthrew Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince's father. Reza Pahlavi has voiced strong support for the protests, calling on Iran security forces to side with the people instead of Khamenei's regime. But living abroad is one thing and returning to Iran is another. Would there be space for him politically? Does the idea of a monarchy resonate beyond nostalgic crowds? Or would most Iranians today choose a democratic republic over a system from the past? Time will tell. If the US does pursue an Operation Ajax 2.0 to install Junior Pahlavi, it would serve immediate Western strategic and energy interests once again, much like the recent intervention in Venezuela. But history has shown that external interference in Iran often produces the opposite of the intended result, potentially fueling another cycle of anti-Western sentiment for generations to come. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.